This video is focused on looking at the ETF, which is um, the exchange traded fund in the context of the developing countries. So we'll be looking at Nigeria as an example, whether is there any ETF that exists in that stock exchange market. So Nigeria is one of the largest economy in Africa. And we also know that they have a well-established stock exchange. So it is a good case to look at whether ETF exists in that country. In the first instance, we want to know whether they will have ETF at all, which is the exchange traded fund. So my question was, is there ETF in Nigeria Stock Exchange? The answers from the AI says yes. The Nigeria Stock Exchange lists several exchange traded funds. As of 2026, there are 12 ETFs trading on the exchange, covering equity, bonds, gold, banking, consumer goods, and Sharia compliant investment. I'm not too familiar with these Sharia compliant investments. I know they will have those kind of microfinance companies that may be dealing with Sharia type of compliance equity or um, capital. Now, some of the best ETFs that I have here that was suggested to me include the Vetiver Griffin, which is more or less similar to what you might consider as S&P 500 in the case of the United States, and it tracks the Nigeria Stock Exchange 30 index. So basically, this 30 index will be the largest 30 companies in the Nigerian business environment that is operating in Nigeria and that also trade in the Nigeria Stock Exchange. So that'll be similar to where you're looking at the largest 30 companies in the United States. In the Nigeria context, that'll be considered as largest. In the US, that might not. So you have to be careful how you interpret that. So the Stabic IBTC ETF 13. So IBTC Stabic is basically well-known financial companies in Nigeria. They have banks those days. I don't know if that still exists right now. So they track the Nigeria Stock Exchange 30 index as well. Um, the new code the new gold ETF tracks the international gold price. That is an interesting one. So, and for people who want to have stake in gold, but not have a physical gold, this is probably one to look at. And you might wonder how these companies will possibly be trading gold. They might be doing it in different ways. They might buy gold from different countries like raw gold. They might also invest in other companies that are trading in gold. So they might have gold as a commodity, and they may also have stocks that is related to gold-related companies. The Ventivar banking ETF, that is another one. So we have the Ventivar Griffith, so they probably have a diversification here, but it's a different one. So Nigeria Bank is set up, but I will expect these two companies to be exactly the same, but they just basically have two types of ETF focus. The Ventivar Consumer again, this seems to be some kind of subsidiary companies, if you like. We will dig into that hopefully when we look at this and see whether this company is just alone or they have all of the subsidiary that focus on different sectors. And then you have the Ventivan S&P Nigeria Sovereign Bond. So this company basically focus on the Nigeria government bond, but you could also have corporate bond in Nigeria as well. Uh, I think bond is quite popular product when it comes to Nigeria, especially those issued by the central bank, and sometimes it comes with high interest rates as the government try to sometimes raise capital for infrastructural development. Um, the risk associated with bonds is generally lower than the stock. So with high interest rates in the Nigeria case, and you have lower risk associated with bond, might be a good one to consider. But I guess my take when it comes to the Nigeria bond will depends on the time horizon, and that is because of the currency volatility when it comes to that country. Now, the Ventiva S&P Nigeria Sovereign Bond ETF focuses on again. Okay, we just talked about that. So I call this one the SIAMLE. Okay, so SIML. I guess it represents something. So it focuses on the leading pension eligible Nigeria stocks. So I'm not quite familiar with that when it comes to the pension stocks or pension investments or all types of retirement investment. You have the Meristem Growth ETF, growth-oriented Nigeria equity. You have the Meristem Value ETF, value-oriented Nigeria equity, and then you have the Greenwich Alpha ETF, which is actively managed by the Nigeria Equity ETF. So here the AI automation says if you are interested in looking at the closest equivalent to S&P 500, which is VUNA SPY, the Ventiva Verifin 30 ETF is generally considered the closest option because it tracks the 30 index, which I consider to be 30 largest company, which contains Nigeria's largest equity company and most liquid. So this word here, most liquid, is important because that tells you the likelihood that if you want to sell your stake in that ETF, you press order to sell it, whether you use an app or you use a stockbroker, you can be able to get a buyer so quickly. This is very important because there are some investments that you engage in, and if you want to sell it or convert it to cash, you might not be able to convert it to cash, even though it still has some value there because no one is willing to buy it. So generally, people consider stock to be highly liquid. That is because if you place order today, you might be able to get someone to buy that stock within the next 24 hours or the next 2 days. But there are also some stocks that when you place order, you might not have anyone to buy it because nobody is interested in buying the stock in that company. So you eventually lose all your investment. And if you go back to cryptocurrency, that was the case. Some cryptocurrencies are there today. If you place order, no one will buy it. So liquidity is very important. It tells you the likelihood of converting your investment to recash. So if your goal is a long-term investing in Nigerian, I can also recommend 3 to 5 best Nigeria ETF based on diversification, historical performance, liquidity, and dividend potential. We won't be looking at that on this video, but the next video we focus on ranking this ETF in terms of their performance, and then the subsequent videos we look at some specific ETF that could be good. So watch out for those videos, but remember that this current video is a follow-up to a previous videos where we look at whether there's ETF that even exists in the case of Nigeria.